I haven't had the time to explain it before, but I'm a big fan of the Danganronpa series.
Sorry for party rocking.
Well, at least the first two games. Danganronpa 1 and 2 are really fun mystery visual novels that flourish on handheld devices. Something I always point to draw people into this series are the various executions specific characters must face. The plot is deceptively simple. 16 high school students trapped inside of a location, and murders ensue as they try and earn their freedom by killing each other. Because if someone can kill someone and get away with it, they are set free. Class trials are held to determine who is guilty so that the rest of the cast can survive while the murderer is punished via being executed until everyone is eventually dead or someone manages to escape. All of these executions are deeply personal to their characters and make a kind of statement about their personalities, designs, and etc. Of course, Danganronpa is something of a black comedy series that exaggerates the violence and viscera to make it seem both funny and not to wallow in too much melancholy all the time. The blood is stylized as a hot pink color for a reason, you know. Look at some of these executions, they're all very bombastic and kind of silly in a way. The violence isn't too filtered away, but there's an element of comedy in all of this. Danganronpa is a funny series that knows the fact it's an anime death game with zany characters and takes advantage of it. But what if I told you there was an execution that played itself completely straight? An execution that, to this day, shocks the community to its very core and stands head and shoulders above the rest of them. At least in my opinion. To explain that, I need to establish some context. The very first Danganronpa game was released in 2010 for the PSP. It came from a hellish development cycle under the name of Distrust from a couple years ago. Distrust was originally a much darker project, but it still carries a lot of the same DNA we would see in the first game proper. Especially so for the first two designed characters for the game, Leon Quada and Sayaka Mizono, who would compose the key players in the game's very first murder trial. Sayaka, desperate to escape the school she and the rest of the cast were confined in, concocts a devious plan. She lured the innocent Leon into Makoto's room where she planned to stab him and frame the murder on protagonist Makoto Naegi. This plan fails because Sayaka didn't realize that attacking someone nearly twice her size was a bad idea, and Leon was able to quite easily defend himself and break her wrist in the process. Out of rage in the moment, Leon murders her with her own knife and attempts to hide the evidence in a way so poorly that he is almost immediately suspected and convicted. Never mind the fact that Sayaka wrote his name upside down to directly point at him. Look, it's the very first case in the game. It's a gameplay introduction more than a head-scratcher. Leon is identified as the killer, and look what happens. Compared to the other beginnings for other executions, the characters are restrained or trapped in a hopeless situation, where something so shocking it borders on parody happens, but their bodies are still mutilated. Teru Teru from the second game is coated in flour and eggs in the beginning, but he's still boiled alive inside of a volcano. Compare this to Leon. Look at how dirty and fish-eyed the camera is here. Look at the chain wrapping around his neck and dragging his body across sharp metal floors. He survives being dragged across concrete and is restrained to a pole, where he is pelted by baseballs until... Actually, I'll let the clip speak for itself. Notice how that was presented versus the other execution clips I've shown. This scenario might seem dramatically funny because of the baseball association, given that Leon is a baseball star, but the joke is quickly muddled when you realize that he's being pelted to death. Look at how the camera fleeces as blood, not hot pink, real dark red blood, spurts out of his entire broken body. as he opens his eyes one last time and he has bones crushed by the velocity of the baseballs being fired. We get to see the other characters' reactions, which happens so infrequently that you might as well forget the franchise even does that. In canon, all the characters are witnessing the executions, but most of them don't have any visual reactions to them. Here, everyone gets a close-up shot of their horrified expressions to really drink in the panic and fear they're feeling, that this will happen to you if you're caught murdering someone and can't escape. There isn't any fantasy feeling to this, there's absolutely nothing funny. We're watching a bunch of teenagers see someone who was at some point their friend, someone in the same boat as them, assaulted and strung up like meat, while the baseballs all around him are denied their stylish hue and shown for what it really is. Dark red clumps of blood and skin and hair. Leon has ceased to be a person, is now a corpse strung up like a scarecrow from Monokuma's malice. This is our establishing execution, the very first one to take place. This is the picture in the back of everyone's mind as they try and survive in Hope's Peak. Several other characters are executed, but none of them are depicted this graphically, this monstrously as Leon's was. His misdeed was a horrifying example for the students, as well as for the audience playing the game, what you should expect from this killing game. The game's rated M for a reason. This level of brutality has been matched and occasionally exceeded, but never carried the raw emotional edge and shock of what Leon had to go through to set an example. It's absolutely haunting. It's a fragment of the Distrust beta. It's something that the series has never dared replicate. And that's why I've included this on this episode of Strange Gaming. But what are your personal favorite picks? I have very strange opinions on the franchise as a whole, and I would be delighted to hear what you guys and gals define as your personal favorite executions. There are quite a few of them across all three main games, so I'm sure people will have their odd favorites. Let me know in the comments section below, and make sure to check out the Strange Gaming playlist to find other videos in this style, and subscribe to the channel for more weekly uploads. And until then, have a lovely rest of your day.